Welcome to the TMBT Radio Milton Bell Basketball Show. And tonight I'm truly blessed to have another one of my brothers, Johnny Jones, who's live from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Johnny, are you there with us?
Yes, I am, Big Scott.
Johnny, it's good to talk to you, brother. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. It's Black History Month, and so I'm blessed that I have friends who I consider legends and friends and brothers who have done so much for me and have taught me things throughout my lifetime. And so it's a blessing that I have this platform where I can ask my brothers to come on, brothers that I have gone to school with and got an education with, and also shared a basketball court with, and I can ask to come on and talk a little bit about themselves and the blessings that their lives have been about. And so I'm so glad to have you here tonight with us. Just really want to say this is a special show for me because of the brotherhood that we have.
So, truly special for me. For the same reasons.
Well, great, brother. Wanted to get you here while we have you on here. Wanted you to talk a little bit, of course, on the Milton Bell Basketball Show. You and I met, like I said, going to Georgetown University. And I remember getting to Georgetown and you being, as the young guys say, my OG. You were a senior or junior, I think, when I got there. And then I was a freshman. And so you just kind of showed me the ropes. You kind of taught me the plays. You helped me with everything. You helped me with the basketball part, with the education part. So you were very influential in my adaptation process at Georgetown. And so I tell it to you all the time that you were one of the main reasons that I was able to be so successful. But just wanted you to talk a little bit about your youth in Florida, of course, in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and how you were blessed to have the opportunity to go from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, to attend Georgetown University.
Well, it wasn't as big as a jump as I thought. And the reason I say that is because I looked at my father's journey. My father's from Pompano Beach, Florida, which is where I'm from. Went to Villanova University, who also is in the Big Five Hall of Fame. You know, those area schools up in Philadelphia with Villanova, Temple, and several other schools. Basketball was a sport I kind of shied away at first for two reasons. One, Florida is a football school, a football state, I'm sorry. And most of the time, most people play football. Basketball is secondary here in Florida. The second reason is my father was such a legend down here that I kind of shied away from it. He scored 85 points in one game. That's all I used to hear as a kid. But once I started playing, I had a love for it. Came a little better, ended up getting a scholarship to probably my dream school. So I remember the first real college basketball game that I truly watched was that Georgetown, North Carolina game in the championship. And I remember following them after that, looking in the papers, what Patrick was doing. Reggie, I never told him this, but he was like my idol, And being able to go there and be right next to him and to meet Patrick and go through that experience. I remember looking at Sports Illustrated when Patrick was on the cover and dreaming about going there and what it would be like. Just like they were like rock stars. Like I couldn't imagine them being in a classroom or walking down the street. But when I came for my visit, it opened my eyes to the whole experience. Being there and meeting, like you said, my brothers. I mean, it was easy to do that with like I said, it was just like we were brothers. There's some things, some stories I can tell, but I'm not gonna go there. It was truly, even though there was a lot of, I would say, some things that went on that I didn't agree with, as far as playing time and different things like that. I can never say I didn't enjoy my time at Georgetown.
Right.
I can never say that I didn't meet and come in contact with people that influenced me. My first living arrangements when I was at Georgetown was Charles Smith, Reggie Williams, which, like I said, and Ronnie Highsmith. And with them, they taught me, not being from the area. Smitty used to take me home to his house, meet his family. Ronnie and Reggie used to teach me the ropes as far as, things in class, just being in college, how to organize my time. So it was natural to just keep doing the same thing. And like I said before, it wasn't a mentor thing with you. It was just two friends, two brothers just going through the experience together.
True, brother, but that's easy for you to say because you're from a pretty big town. Fort Lauderdale is the times that I've had to visit you there. Fort Lauderdale is a really happening and bustling tourist town. You're talking about someone like myself coming from small town Richmond, Virginia, where D.C. was only 1 hour away, but it was like night and day, just with the lifestyle and the things that you came in contact with. So it was you were probably, without a doubt, definitely more prepared than I was going to Washington, D.C. and having to fulfill. I remember you being a great student as well. And so that's what I try to encourage my students, my basketball students that I teach basketball, is that you have to be a student athlete, is that you can't just be a basketball player and think that basketball is going to take you to where you need to go. You have to be a student first, and you have to be a student who has time to play basketball. And so when I think about Johnny Jones, I always remember you being a great student. Talk a little bit about your education and how seriously you took your education, of course, in high school, because make no mistakes about it. You don't get a chance to attend Georgetown University without doing well in high school from an education standpoint. So I wanted you to talk a little bit about that.
Well, I became a better student. It was a transformation. And the way Thompson set the program up was a blessing for me. Being from Florida, speaking a certain way, I was terrified going to a school like Georgetown, to be honest with you. But, the constant feeling every night forced me to study because you had to be prepared talking to her. My first conversation with her, they was like, you call Miss Finley, you tell her what you did in class. So I'm thinking, okay, we went to class. Man, this lady went down my throat. I'm talking about she cursed me out for almost an hour.
Yeah.
But that next night, I had all my notes ready to answer any question that she asked.
Right.
And I realized that as I was taking tests or writing papers, a lot of those conversations, came through and got me through those tests or helped me with those papers. Even the social aspect of how you deal with your professors, if you are having problems, go directly to them and explain it to them and let them guide you through it instead of trying to avoid them and thinking like they're the enemy. And like I said, with Reggie Williams and Ronnie Highsmith and Smitty, teaching me, showing me the ropes, it made it easier for me.
Right.
And that's why I became a better student. It didn't come natural. Please believe me, it didn't come natural.
Right. For those listeners that are trying to figure out who Johnny is referring to, he's talking about Georgetown Hoya legends Charles Smith, Reggie Highsmith, and also Ronnie Highsmith and Reggie Williams. Like Johnny was saying, just for those who don't realize who you're talking about, he's also talking about John Thompson Jr., the big guy, the coach that was our coach, not John Thompson III, who is the son of the father. Mm-hmm. And so just wanted to clear that up, Johnny, for those younger listeners that may be thinking that you're talking about JT3. We're actually talking about his dad for those younger listeners who are not maybe a little young to remember our coach.
Right. And your mother, I mean, let's not forget your mom, man. You know, the way she made me feel when I would come and visit, you know, I felt like that was my mom. And like I said before, it never felt like a mentor, you know, teacher, student, guiding, or just two friends, you know, two brothers.
Right.
I mean, you know how I felt about your mom, man. She was one in a million, 1 in a billion. You know?
Yeah, bro.
And even now, I mean, you don't have to talk for, I don't know, but it doesn't even matter. Whenever we do talk, we know where we stand.
Right.
And we both love each other.
Right.
You know? And that's a blessing.
Right, man. It's the same thing. It's kind of deep that you said that because we had one of our other Georgetown teammates on here a few days ago, Coyote Van, and he and I were saying the same thing, that we really just started talking a couple weeks ago preparing for the show. And so whenever you have a chance to talk to that person, whether it be 5 days, 5 years, 50 years, you still have that brotherly, that love, that every time that I see you calling or I call you, it's kind of like I start laughing before I even answer the phone because we have so much in common, and we've been you've been such a great mentor, a great brother. I always bounce ideas off of you, and so it's one of those good things that when you have a older brother to bounce ideas off of, like when I do stuff with the kids or I ask you about a pro camp in Florida, you always give me your honest opinion. And for those that don't realize that when my son Maximilian came from Venezuela, his first stop after leaving Venezuela was Miami, Florida. And so I was so nervous that I called Johnny and I said, Jones, he's coming into Miami Airport. I don't know what he's going to need. You're the closest person I can think of. And so, bam, you were right there. You actually saw my son in the United States before I did because he was on his way. You then proceeded to put him on the plane to send him up here to us. But you were the first face that he saw. And so that was the beautiful of having an Uncle Johnny who can actually meet you at the airport. And I think you took him to get something to eat. You guys, I don't think he spoke much English at that time, but it's just the brotherhood. He didn't speak much English at that time, but it's the brotherhood where you have a brother so many miles away that you can say, hey, bro, my son is coming in from Venezuela, doesn't speak much English, check in on him if you can. And so it's just things like that I'm appreciative for, that I have you as a brother. Also, of course, I always talk basketball, but academics and basketball, as you and I know, wanted you to talk a little bit about playing for Coach Thompson and the academic part carrying over from high school to when you got to college. I'm sure that ramped up, as we both know and all know that Coach Thompson was a education first type of guy. And so I'm sure, kind of like we were saying the other day with Coyote Van, that a lot of things that we do today in our adult life are probably lessons that we may have learned from Coach John Thompson. So I wanted you to talk a little bit about his influence on your life and just talk about the greatness and the positive energy that he was able to instill in you.
Two blessings I received from Thompson. Besides my teammates like yourself, Sam Jefferson, and like I said, Smith, Charles Smith, and the rest of them. One was Ronnie Thompson, his son. And being in a situation where you have the coach's son on the team, it could be where there's a lot of animosity because you feel like the coach is treating him better or whatever situation may be. Or the son might act a certain way because that's his father. You know, maybe like in Clipperland. But that was never the case. Ronnie, was a blessing for me as far as teaching me things about etiquette and how to carry yourself in certain situations. A real good friend, a brother. And Erica Thompson, which is his wife, was one of the first friends that I had at Georgetown, who, after academically helped me out from conversations to helping me with writing papers and different things like that. Another lesson that he taught me, like, I often hear people saying, there's a focus on academics, which is true. But you also have a responsibility as an athlete. That's why they say student athlete. You don't put one over the other. It's like putting your role as a father over your role as a husband. Both of them are equally as important, and you deal with one as such. When it's time for you to be a husband, you be a husband. When it's time for you to be a father, you be a father. But you don't say, I'm going to focus on my kids and not focus on my wife. They're equally as important. And when you go to school, I think we need to have our kids understand that. There's an obligation for you to do what you're supposed to do in class as well as what you do on the court. And to encourage them to follow their dreams. I wish I had followed my dream, full and not listen to the whole, you need a backup plan, you need this. That's common sense. When you go to college, you might not have the major that you started out with. You might change it. But you don't go to college and say, I'm not going to be this. I'm going to have this, this, and this. You go for it. If it doesn't work out, then you go to the next step. But I appreciate that lesson because I went there thinking like academics, but the reason I was at Georgetown, let's be honest, is to play basketball. Not only for myself, but the reason why Georgetown paid for my education is to play basketball now. And I owe the obligation to give them everything that I had.
Right.
And I think young kids got to understand that also. You don't pick one over the other. You got to give each one of them 100%. When you at practice, you give 100%. When you're in that classroom, you give 100%. When you're at home studying, you give 100%.
Correct. Yeah. I totally agree. And I think that is the Rubik's Cube, if you will, of the student athlete to learn how to juggle or to allot the needed time to each one. And like you said, you were very blessed. We were blessed to be at such an institution where the education and the basketball were both demanding. But I think when you're in high school, it's what you seek out as a high school basketball player, student athlete. You seek out the best and you seek out where you're going to be pushed and where you're going to get better. And so it's one of those things where you want to be around the best. And you know that at that time, you touched on it earlier, that every African-American kid in the 80s wanted to play for Coach Thompson or wanted to put that Georgetown uniform on. And so it was a blessing. I, too, had the same dream. Like yourself, you would watch them on TV and you would see them on Sports Illustrated. And especially for me, being 1 hour away, it was incredible. It was almost incredible. And at the time, I also had family that went to school there. So I had a chance to see the actual campus at a young age. And so it kind of gives your dreams details. And so it's very deep what you said about the family atmosphere. I know you being so far away from home in Florida. You said you had, like you said, my mom and your dad that were close. So you always knew that you had family. And then you also mentioned Ronnie Thompson, who is Coach Thompson's son. And also he is a broadcaster currently for the Washington Wizards and also does college basketball in the D.C. area. And so he also is one of our brothers who really, Ronnie was very influential in myself, in my life as well. He really helped me with the education part and the adaptation process. So I want to give him a shout out as well. Talk to me a little more about yourself. I know you're a very humble guy and don't like to talk a lot, but just want you to just use this platform to talk about yourself a little bit and tell us what you have going on down in the Florida area.
I work at an alternative school here in a place called Hollandale Beach. It's a school where kids who have been expelled from regular school come to my school, for offenses of bringing a taser to school, their behavior, have been given so many referrals, so they've been kicked out of school, or they brought a gun to school, and they're sent to my location. And we're trying to help them to they're there for anywhere between 90, 180, or if they don't behave, if they're there for behavior, until the behavior is changed.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives me a unique perspective, I guess, of education, because it's coming from the other side.
Mm.
It's not coming from like when we was at Georgetown, where everyone is interested in, I won't say interested, where everyone is trying to obtain whatever it is through education. There's other means of attaining, I guess, where you want to be or what you want to have. So education is not these students' primary mode of transportation.
Right.
It's other things. It may be they think they're going to be on the street selling. It may be their focus is on rap. Maybe it's just they don't like school, they say. And trying to get them to understand that you can't look at it as school. And I think that's where I used to go wrong in high school. Instead of just understanding and learning and not putting that pressure on you to get a certain grade, I think it makes it a lot easier. And what I mean by that, instead of you thinking like someone trying to force something at you, just listen and give your opinion. Mm-hmm. We all entitled to our opinion. That's what I've learned at Georgetown.
Right.
Go in there and listen to what they say and give my own opinion. Don't let it be swayed by someone else. We bring unique perspectives, to the conversation. Georgetown, it's a well-to-do school where kids have a lot of money and they didn't live the life that we live. So they look at things differently, but we can bring our perspective and see things differently in the work that we do.
Right.
And that's why I enjoy it a lot. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy working with the kids I work with.
Right.
I feel like I'm working with me, trying to get me to that next level. Just like with you. I don't think people know just how good you were in basketball. Like, you amazed me when you first got there. Before you, JT, John Turner, Alonzo, before y'all got there, he was talking about y'all. Like, we got these horses coming. Like, I'm thinking myself, horses. So we kept hearing, we got these horses coming. And, everyone knew about Alonzo because, he was the number one player that year. But when I saw you, and I heard, like I watched your stats and stuff, and I couldn't believe how many block shots you averaged. I'm like, oh, you play small forward? And I tell friends about this play, and that you actually dunked on Dikembe and Alonzo on one play. And I never seen anything like that before in my life. Seeing Alonzo jump and you moving it one way and then dunking on Alonzo. It was incredible. And you made practice funny, man. If it wasn't for you, practice would have been miserable. You know how practice was. And when you feel like you're not playing for playing time, it can get to the point where you just feel like, what's the purpose?
Right. But
with you, Sam Jefferson, like you said, that second unit, it was fun going to practice. And, you were saying about me being a mentor, but it wasn't for you, man. And like I said, Ronnie, I don't know if I would have wanted to stick around, to be honest with you.
Well, you hit it on the head, man. We had some, and for those listeners that don't understand what Johnny's talking about, he's talking about the first unit of Dikembe Mutombo and Alonzo Mourning playing together. And so us being on the second unit, Johnny, Coyote Van, and myself, we were on the second unit. So every day we had to face these monsters and these legends. These guys turned out to be NBA legends, Hall of Famers, All-Stars. But we were just battling every day. And so we knew that all we had was our brotherhood. And so that's so deep what you're saying, because I also felt the same way. And I think that if we didn't have that brotherhood, that positive energy about the second unit, that we would have been eaten alive. which they almost killed us, but they didn't. We survived playing against those guys. We survived. And so one of the things that helped us survive, it made us better. First of all, like you said, it made us better. But it also let us know that, hey, if we can play with Alonzo Mourning and Dikembe Mutombo and Charles Smith and Dwayne Bryant and Reggie Williams and Patrick Ewing and these guys in the summer, that, hey, man, these Big East guys don't have a chance against us. And we were actually, it was fun for me to that first year. I'm sure you were used to it by then. But to see these legends walk in the gym in the summertime, Patrick Ewing, I remember spending quite a bit of time playing with us in the summer. And so you're saying to yourself at 17, 18 years old that if you can maintain focus on the court with Patrick Ewing, then these other guys at these other universities, they don't have a chance. So it was big, man. It was one of those great experiences. I wish every kid could experience what we did experience as young kids with the Georgetown experience. And it's funny, I actually took my son. I was telling Coyote that I took my son back to Georgetown. I took my son Max back to Georgetown 2 summers ago, and just wanted him to see the experience and to walk around the campus, and that it truly was a blessing. I'm sure as you do, you feel the same way, that it was truly a blessing for young African-American men like ourselves. I'm sure you will agree.
Oh, yes, I definitely agree. And not only the Patrick Ewings, but I remember that Eric Floyd, the Browns, Fred Browns, the Harvard Broadnecks, coming up there and giving advice and guiding us. That's what made it truly special for me. Being able to talk to people you idolize, And like I said, that first year, just being with Reggie Williams and competing, it's something that would never be taken away from me.
Right.
And it was a great experience. And like you said, I was looking at questions, like you asked about the shooting that happened here, not too long ago, maybe a week ago.
Right.
I live maybe, I would say 40 minutes. I can easily get there. I'm saying 40 minutes. I can easily get there in like 20 minutes to the school. So it's not far. And the high school that I went to maybe is like 10 minutes away from Stoneman Douglas.
Right.
And like I said, the kids that come to our school, if he had never, I guess, pulled that off and they just caught him with a gun, they would have sent him to a school like mine.
Right.
So we wouldn't have to deal with someone like that.
Right.
Many conversations gone on about what can we do to prevent it. Metal detectors, armed guards on campus, and different things like that. But I don't think anyone ever talks about the way that we treat these kids, these students, as just test scores, and the pressure that we put on them and don't allow them to be kids. We try to make them grown-ups.
Right.
And then you factor in the Facebook, Snapchat, things that we didn't have when we was a kid to, I guess, pull at our self-esteem. Now it's about how many likes you got, how many views you got. If you feel disconnected, there's no telling where your mind goes. These people are not just shooting because it's more of a look at me, this is what I did. I get on Facebook and I have a gun and I'm waving it around to show people that this is me.
Right.
That says more to the situation than anything.
Right.
I don't think that anything that you can do to prevent someone when they decide to do it. That don't mean that I'm saying we don't take steps, but I think there are steps that can be taken to try to minimize the damage. But as far as preventing someone to do something that they have in mind, it's not going to happen.
Right. And for those that are trying to figure out, Johnny is from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And so when my my son Maximilian, who is in school in Florida. When I first saw the news on TV, I was, of course, worried like any parent would be that has a son in high school in Florida. So I was talking to Johnny recently, and he was explaining that that school where this shooting happened and how Florida is set up. So talk to us a little bit more, Johnny, about that incident down there. Of course, that's a very unfortunate incident, but how does something like that happen in Florida for us, for people like myself who may be in Virginia? How does something like that happen?
Well, I think it can happen. It's been proven that it can happen anywhere.
Right.
I don't think Florida is a unique situation or have a unique set of kids. I just think that the way we conduct business now in school, the way we conduct business in society is breeding these types of kids. Kids who have to show that they're hurt. Kids have to show they're in pain. They have to show how they're going to carry it out. Most of the kids that I deal with, they would do something and you say, well, why did you do it? They would say, I have anger issues. Mm-hmm. Now, back in my time, we was angry, but having anger, that was never used as an excuse. You couldn't just say, I cursed a teacher, a professor or a teacher out because I have anger issues. It wasn't tolerated. Now, it's tolerated, Now we got to go through and try to convince you about your hot buttons. Say, "Can't do this, do yoga," they say in schools. When we don't preach that, certain things are just not tolerated. You can't do this. When we was at Georgetown, we knew the consequences of our actions. Right. We knew that if we did X, Y, and Z, or we didn't go to class, there was a consequence. Right. And that consequence that you might not be there. Right. So that kind of guided you in the right direction. It's nothing for these kids, for anyone to say to these kids that this is not tolerated. It's more of, okay, you did it, but we're going to see what we can do and just keep pushing that way. Right. So the thing that bothered me the most about the situation, and please believe my heart goes out to the families that are directly impacted by this tragedy. And the reason I say that because people are indirectly affected also. It might be a cousin, a friend of yours who during the past, I've talked to people in that situation. Right. But since this is Black History Month, the thing that concerns me the most is I wonder about the kids in places like Chicago who on their way going to school see shootings and different things, and there's no grief counselors coming out there to talk to them, or right now the school is closed for at least a week. They don't close those schools down and say, we feel for you and we're there for you, so we're not. There's somebody talking about gun control when these kids are being shot up and everything like that. Bystanders and things. That's what concerns me, especially during Black History Month. We have to have the same uproar when it happens in our community when it happens in other communities. Right. And that's what bothers me. Right.
It's deep what you're saying because it's unfortunate, of course, the situation. But I like to think that from all of these tragedies can come some type of learning as well. Of course, you would hate to think that any one would lose their life, but I would like to hope that we're learning as a society what is necessary to help our youth. Because, like you said, you deal with youth. I deal with youth, but it sounds like this young man had more problems that maybe were not diagnosed or maybe not addressed, and that maybe he wasn't stopped early enough. And so you read some of the postings about his Facebook page. It's quite disturbing, but we never know what someone is actually going through. We never know as a society until, unfortunately, sometimes it's too late. It's unfortunate. But wanted you to talk about, while we have you here also, on a more positive note, wanted you to talk about how blessed we are to have our Black History Month and for us to be African American men that are educated, that we have seen so many things in a short period of time as far as life, been blessed to receive an education and to play basketball and to play on national TV and to play on CBS and ESPN and these things. Talk to me a little bit about what Black History Month means to you.
To me, it's like winning an award, I would say. And the reason I say that, it's like if you won the Grammy. Your work is good, just as good as everybody else, you've been out. But it's a time for you to thank all the people that made it possible. To me, Black history is a time we can thank all the people that made it possible for us to be here. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, the Black Panther Party, the list goes on. For us to pay homage and to let our kids know what we're about. That you're not just a slave. You're not someone who just had to beg for your freedom, that you actually fought for your freedom, that you are a man, you're a human being. Like you said, I feel proud of being a Black American in this country. I feel proud of being who I am, the lineage that I come from, being from where I'm from. And to me, that's a time, February is a time where we can pay homage to those people who made it possible. Because as we've been talking, whether for a Ronnie Highsmith, a Charles Smith, Reggie Williams, those people who came before me, it wouldn't have been easy for me to do what I did. How to deal with professors and different things like that. The opportunities that we have to go to a Georgetown, I don't know if that would have possible around a Bebe Dorman or Eric Sleepy Floyd if they hadn't come in and did what they supposed to do. It could have easily turned the other way. Because easily where they came in and certain things happened. And they wouldn't allow us to be at Georgetown, to be honest with you.
Right.
To me, Black history is a time for us to acknowledge the sacrifices that people before us made. I often think about Martin Luther King. Not so much as far as the speech and everything else, but just imagining you awake and knowing that your family's in danger. Of hearing that someone bombed your house and that your wife and kids could have been in there, but still do what you need to do. To have someone stab you in the chest and to wonder if someone else in your next speaking engagement has the same thought in mind. That's where I have an awful amount of respect for someone who would not only risk their life, and I also have the same respect for Coretta Scott King, that she supported him through this, knowing that herself and her kids are in danger. How many women in today's society would have had their home blown up and still supported their husband and what they was doing? And a job that not for them, but for the next generation. So for Black History Month, that's what it means to me. To pay homage to those people.
Right. So, moving what you're saying, especially during the time of Black History Month, and for us blessed young men, you named so many of the legends that went to school there. Reggie Williams, Patrick Ewing, Charles Smith, Ronnie Highsmith, Johnny Jones, Sam Jefferson, Ronnie Thompson, those African-American young men to have that opportunity in the 80s to go to a school like that and to carry on the legacy of what Coach Thompson wanted us to represent. I think that was very big, very influential, even in today's time when I deal with my own sons and also the basketball students that I have. I'm sure you can attest that when you deal with the young men that you have on a daily basis, you pull from things that maybe Coach Thompson said or things that your dad may have said or your high school coach. You pull upon or pull from those things to kind of guide young men in that direction, in the right direction that you would like to think that we were guided in. That was big. That was very big.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he treated us. What I respect most about Thompson is he treated us more than just basketball players. He treated us as people. You know, there was times in practice where he would stop practice and talk about what was going on in the world, or talk about us, our development as men. And I think that's missing. You know, all the great coaches that I watch on television and I watch in interviews and different things like that, they understand that it's more than just me talking about basketball. If you want the best out of this individual, you got to talk more than basketball.
Right.
You got to talk about his development as a man. And then you get that great basketball player. You know, LeBron James is one of the all-time greats, but he also is a great man. You know, the things that he do in his community, nationally, how he speaks out and shows his support on different issues. That's what makes us great, you know. And for the latest, I guess, topic of the young lady telling him to just shut up and dribble, you know, that's how they want to see us, that we are nothing but basketball players. But we are citizens of this country who has a voice, who has responsibility. You know, they want him to be a role model, but then he can't speak. That makes no sense.
Right.
And like I said before, the thing that I appreciate at Georgetown is that Thompson encouraged us to speak out, encouraged us to be more than just basketball players.
And
with your podcast.
Right. That's big, man, because it's one thing that he actually encouraged. It's funny to hear you say that, because I speak so highly of Coach Thompson all the time, that he encouraged that things were done the right way. And so I remember, I think it was probably before we even got there, or maybe during your time there, that you guys were playing somewhere, and in the stands, I think the students were holding up signs that weren't very nice. And so I hear the story goes, I wasn't there, but I hear the story goes that Coach told the other coach from that university, he says, hey, either you guys are going to take them down, or we're going to go in the stands and take them down for you. But they will be coming down. And so, yeah, it's just one of those things that what he believed in and what he believed was right was the most important. And so he taught us those things. I remember him talking fondly of the great Bill Russell and his relationship and friendship with him. And so it was just great, especially the older that we get, for me especially, to know that while our coach is actually one of the legends, you don't realize how legendary he is until you get older and you really get a chance to find out who these people are. Coach Mike Riley and Coach Craig Esherick and those guys, they're legends. And so legends for what they did for us basketball-wise, but legends for what they did for us as men, as young men trying to find our way out in society. So when I say legend, that word is bigger than just basketball. It's about that person's energy, that person's being. And so it's just a blessing once again to have you here. Today, my brother, wanted to wrap it up on TMBT radio on the Milton Bell Basketball Show. Before we go, I wanted you to give our listeners your social media handles, whatever social media that you use. I know you use Facebook, so we wanted you to take the time to shout out your handles. Facebook.
It's funny because I'm not like a social media person.
Right.
I have a Facebook. As I can say, I just go in there to stroll and get information.
Right.
You know, to be able to watch your podcast. You know, we had other players who also done it. Reggie Williams had his show. You know, Michael Graham. I think he still has his show. It's just a big information. I'm not really a social media person that looks at all the likes and different things like that. Right. It's more information for me.
Right.
I just appreciate the how far. I don't want to say how far because that seemed like you was way, because you always had potential. But just to see that you're doing what you love doing, and that you're a great father, a great husband. I watch you with the coaching. What you do in your community. I mean, Black history, honestly, is you.
Wow. That's deep.
You doing the things that I would think Martin Luther King and the rest of them want to see our Black men doing in our communities.
Right.
It's something, being a good father, taking an interest in your community, spreading knowledge. Those are the things that, and the message that I think they wanted out there. And you're the embodiment of Black History Month for me. And being a brother, like I said, I love you, man. I mean, there's no other way I can put it to you.
Jones, man, you're going to make me start crying on live air. But those things mean so much coming from you. Like you said, one of the few people that I have, even today, if I have something going on, I'll call you just to run it by you. It's one of the people that I know that whatever I have going on, he's going to, after talking to him, I'm going to feel better. And so it's just a pleasure, brother, to be your brother, and to us have shared and still sharing, and for you to finally get a chance to meet your godson, Maximilian Bell. And so it's beautiful, brother. It's beautiful. Want to hopefully have you back at a later time if you have time to come back. And we'd love to also do a part 2 with you as well to continue our energy session, as I call it. We talk so much, you and I, we always talk on the phone, but just to have people that maybe can remember that time in Georgetown basketball, just to have you here to share your knowledge and to share your energy really means a lot to me. So I wanted to say thank you again. Thank you to all of our TMBT radio listeners. We'll be back tomorrow with Raymond Neblett at 8 p.m. And so we're going to be signing off with my brother Johnny Jones, Jumping Johnny Jones from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I love you a lot, my brother, and I will be talking to my listeners soon.